Welcome back to Summer 2012, video number 2, 3D Studio, assignment, how to transform a sphere into a phase or a transformation between the animal of you and your actual phase. So we have Professor Jose Negrete introducing you to our exercise. Thank you.
Right, so next I want to cover the Select and Move tool, which happens to be highlighted at the moment, and you'll see it here at the top left in the viewport. And you'll notice with your object selected, you have kind of axis arrows on the object. This is called the gizmo, and these are grips that let you move the object along either of the three axes or two or more at the same time. So if we zoom into this box here, you'll notice the z-axis is blue, the x-axis is red, and your y-axis is green. And if we put the cursor over one of the individual axes, you'll notice that it lights up yellow. That means we can now click and drag and it'll move along only that axis. And so here I can move just along the z only, or the x only. And if I put my cursor in between two of the axes, both of them light up. So this means I can now move anywhere on the plane of x and z, or y and z, right? Or we can do x and y as well. Okay. The other way we can move this object is if we right-click on the Move Tool icon at the top. This will open the Transform Type-In window. And in this window you can see where exactly this box is currently in space. So if you look at the absolute world on the left side, we can change these to 0 so that the box is exactly at the origin point, which is 0, 0, 0. So what you could do is, if you wanted to move this precise amount and you knew what that was, you could just type it in here instead of trying to eyeball it in the viewport. So we can move this object along the y-axis 10 inches and it'll jump over. And if you notice here now on the world coordinates, we have x equals 0, y equals 10 inches, and z equals 0. So you have similar values if you had the rotate tool active. And so here now, if you notice, I clicked on the rotate tool and we have the absolute coordinates here, which are 0, 0, 0, but we can rotate the box in an axis as well. So we can do like x-axis, for example, rotate 45 degrees and the box will rotate. And so if you happen to rotate the box in the viewport and you do it, you rotated it so that you lost track of how much you rotated it, you could always check back in the type-in window and reset these values here to 0 to reset the box back. Okay, any questions with this? Alright. So if we go back to the sphere, I'm going to move that to the origin point, and then I'm going to delete the box and the cylinder. I'm also going to reduce the segments just so that it's not so dense. So here I have the sphere selected, and I'm going to go to the Modify tab, which again is the second tab in the command panel at the right. And we're going to reduce the segments, so we'll try half, which is 16 segments. Next, we're going to use a modifier. So here again, we're in the Modify tab, and if you notice below the object's name, which in this case is Sphere 001, there's a modifier list. So we're going to click on that list there, and scroll down the list and add an Edit Poly modifier. And what the Edit Poly modifier will do is it lets us manipulate the sphere at the subobject level. So again, these subobjects are vertices. So you see these red icons here. So we have vertices. And when I enable that mode, you'll see the points at the intersections of the edges light up. So you see little blue dots here. So now we can select those individual vertices and move those. The same way we moved the entire object, we could move just one of the sub-objects. So now that I can select the vertices, you'll see the gizmo jumps to that vertex, and then we can move that gizmo again on either one of the individual axes or two or more at the same time. Right? And you could also use the transform type in window and specify a value you want to move. So currently I have the very top vertex selected, so we could say if you wanted to make like a pointy hat or something, you would increase the Z value. So if we move along the sub-object selection methods here, the next one is edge. And with edge mode, we can select an individual line segment along the polygons here. And it's the same idea. Once you select one or more of them, you can move them. So here we could move. So if you guys remember from the board Marcela showed earlier that the head on that printout was very, very simple. So this is how that one was done. Was just by manipulating vertices or edges, pushing and pulling them to change the form of the sphere. So it's kind of like sculpting clay, if you think about it. The next selection method is called border, but currently this is not usable. Border works on if there's a hole in the object. So if I actually move over to polygon and select one of these polygons and delete them, then if I go back to border, this border will let me select those open edges where that polygon was before. So if you guys see that, there's a hole in there now.
So if you're designing like a geodesic dome and you gotta look at the inside or some kind of experimentation. So if you're designing a face, you want to have more segments, because the more segments you have, the more control you can have to create features, right?
Right. So so those are the sub-object selection methods you would use the most. It's the first two, which is vertices, edges, and then the fourth one, which is polygon. So the other thing you can do, instead of just moving these polygons around or other sub-objects, is if we select one of the polygons, or two or more of them, you have additional tools under Edit Polygons.
How did you open that again?
Oh, I just stretched this out. So if you put your cursor here on the edge of the viewport, you can...
oh, nice.
Yeah. So you could just pull this out as much as you want. So here with the polygon selected, you can use, under Edit Polygons, use the Extrude tool. And if you notice any of these tools you want to experiment with, there's always a settings button immediately to the right of the word. So in this case, there's the Extrude tool, and there's a little window icon to the right of that, which is what I'm going to click. So that's the Extrude settings. So now if you look here on screen, I have this little Extrude options which popped up. This is called a caddy, a tool caddy. So here we can specify the extrusion amount. So here if I orbit, so here we're extruding that polygon out. And there's an extrusion method. This is extrude polygons by group normals, local normals, or by polygon. So what this means is if we had a selection going around the entire sphere, you see that? If we use group normals, it's extruding it upward. If we use local normals, it's using the local normal of each polygon. What a normal means is the polygon has a little arrow pointing in the direction that the polygon's facing. So in this case, it's using the local normal of each polygon, which happens to be a selection going around the entire sphere. So that's why currently the extrusion is kind of going outward from the sphere. Whereas if I change it back to the group normals, it's going straight up. And then if we use by polygon, it extrudes the polygons individually outward.
So it's a way that you make things that are fixed. It's a little bit of parametric driven design, because whatever, if you choose to have one fixed and the other one variable, those are the three ways that you can manipulate. The things that are fixable, that cannot be moved, and the ones that are variable. So you can see how very quickly you can design drinking fountains and containers and so on. That's why this software is very powerful, because once you design this on 3D Studio, you can extrude it as STL file and print it on your 3D printer.
Right.
So with this, we're going to conclude. We're going to go to video 3, and we're going to go into a more detail on how to generate a face. This is at least the manipulations of 3D solids. Thank you.